series. Today's video is because of a question. And the question was, Kiana, how do I go about not absorbing energy anymore? Like I'm just taking on other people's energy. How do I stop it? And it's an excellent question because taking on energy it can be a struggle because you feel pain, you feel discord, you might feel achy. And so one of the things that I thought would be helpful in this video, because I've talked about absorbing energy in the past, but what I want to give you is 5 specific things that I think would help you, that if you're doing any one of these 5 or you're doing all of these 5 things lead to vulnerabilities in your energetic field. And some of these might surprise you, some of them might not, but absorbing energy essentially is when you come into contact with others, you take on their energy. So for example, you go to a meeting and you feel somebody's pain. That would be absorbing. So first of all, you don't need to be an empath to absorb energy. You don't need to be a telepath to think thoughts, okay? So it's not unique. What it means is that you have vulnerabilities in your energy field, weaknesses, vulnerabilities, leaks, however you want to interpret your energy field, and you're absorbing other people's stuff, okay? So I want to give you 5 different ways in which, if you're doing any one of these 5, then you want to identify, well, what am I doing so I can stop it? So if you're doing one of these things, you want to make a conscious effort to stop doing these things, because these things are creating a weakness and vulnerability in your field that allows these other energies to come in, and basically you suffer. Absorbing other people's energy is inorganic, meaning your body was never intended to do that. It is not a badge of honor. It is a sign of energetic weakness that you can correct. You absolutely can correct it. So I want to start by resonance. So let's just say you have a medical condition and you are going to the doctors to get some assistance, okay? You're going to the doctors to get some assistance and you are having polarized thinking. If you are having polarized thinking, and it might be like, if I'm not afraid, then something is going to go wrong. So I need to be vigilant and I need to be hyper alert and I can't be relaxed and confident. I must be in fear. Those are polarizing thoughts that keep you from enjoying life, right? So it also creates like a cognitive distortion. So whatever it is that you are perceiving will be distorted, inaccurate, based on your lens of the world. So polarized thinking is going to cause you to have a vulnerability in your energy field. There's a lot of people that walk around like it's either this or that, or if I'm not doing this, this is going to happen. And when those thoughts are occurring, you can create like what's considered a rip in your energy field. Okay, so that's number 1. So if you have polarized thinking, you want to correct your thinking, because your thinking does influence your energy field, and it can be corrected with conscious intention. Okay, enemy patterning. If you have enemy patterning, you want to address this. And that comes from this thing called victimizer programming. So this is, and you can look this stuff up and find stuff on the internet, I'm sure, about this stuff. But victimizer patterning is essentially Somebody did something to you. The doctor gave me the wrong diagnosis. The doctor made the mistake. Therefore, the doctor is the victimizer and you are the victim. That is not only polarizing thinking, so a lot of these are going to overlap, but it's also an enemy patterning. And somebody's doing something to you and you are the victim, and therefore they're the victimizer. So any victim thinking, any perceptions where they did it to you and you're not taking any responsibilities, that's an issue. That will also cause some vulnerabilities in your energy field. And you think, well, that doesn't make sense, Kiana. How does that work? Well, because you didn't take any responsibility. So let's look at it from this perspective. If somebody lied and you believed the lie, whose fault is it? The liar who lied or you who believed? That's the victimizer thinking. And the correct way energetically to address it is, I believed the lie and I am sorry for believing the lie. And you go and you correct that pattern that made you an enemy with whomever. That is how you would correct it. A lack of correction is still leaving the enemy patterning in your field, which you will absorb energy from. Now, you will absorb energy from wherever you go, not just at work, not just at dinner, at home, when you're with your family, but you will absorb it wherever you go. If you go to the airport, if you go to the hospital, if you go to a doctor's, you're going to have these vulnerabilities. So you really want to address enemy patterning. So you're not a victim. And there's no victimizer. You take full responsibility for your thinking, for your part in whatever you played. So if you want to use the example that I started with the doctor, I had a choice and I knew in my gut that doctor was the wrong one for me. And therefore, because I felt it in my gut, I am going to go and get a second, third, fourth, fifth. I tell people to get more opinions all the time. A lot of people don't want to get opinions. I've gone as high as 8 or 9 opinions for when I didn't feel like I was getting something. I don't blame those doctors. I don't go into whose fault it was that they misdiagnosed. It doesn't matter. What matters is your patterning. And if you make them an enemy, they did this to you, that is a weakness and a vulnerability in your field. Okay, here's one that a lot of people don't like, but I'm going to say it because it's so true. You have a resonance. So if you have a situation and you're attracting this energy and you're absorbing this energy, let's just say you don't even know what you're absorbing. You just know it doesn't feel good. And oftentimes what I see people do is they get mad at the person who they absorbed the energy from. It was their fault. Again, going into that enemy patterning, instead of having loving compassion for this person who didn't even know they were doing this, by the way. Most people who are shedding energy or having energy leaks in their field, they don't even know they have it. How many of you were educated in your energy field? Most of us haven't been. I mean, I am, because I took a conscious action to learn this, but you have to resonate with whatever it is that you're experiencing, whether you are aware that you're in consent with it or not. And the consent is a whole nother but conscious resonance is that they are reflecting back to you, which is why they're in your presence. So when you address the issue in which you are attracting that, another way of looking at it is vibrating in alignment with that. Even though you may not like it, you still are vibrating with it. Maybe it's conflict, maybe it's drama, maybe it's narcissism. That one's so easy to do, because once you address all your vulnerabilities about why you keep attracting narcissists in your life, they just disappear. They're just not going to bother you because they won't be attracted to you if they can't get anything from you. Narcissist is a perfect example of how energy is siphoned from people. And that's different than absorbing, so I'm not going to go totally into it, but that's a perfect example of consciousness resonance. You must vibrate in agreement to it. So even if you're not conscious that you're in alignment with it, you are, because it's in your field. So if you understand that that is in your field, now you have a chance to shift and change and learn from that. Okay? Ego filters is the fourth one. The fourth one is ego filters. And that will be when you have identified in your field with a role, an identity that is not true. So an ego filter is an identity that you've made up and believe to be true. So it could be a role or a position or anything. It could be anything. Anything that's not God. So if you haven't aligned to God in your heart of hearts, whatever religion you believe, you're still identifying with your ego self. So you want to disidentify with the ego identities and align back to the truth frequency. If you don't believe in God, just go with the truth frequency. That's fine. That will align you as well. Anything that's not true energetically from your heart, the ego cannot continue to claim. So you got to disidentify the ego. And I really try really hard not to go into ego work on these videos because there's so much pushback when the ego is challenged. And I don't want to challenge you. I just want to provide different perspectives of looking at things. Okay, so fourth one is to disidentify from the ego mind. And then this last one, this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The fifth one is learned helplessness. So essentially, this is you are in a situation and you feel helpless and you've given up and you've just resigned to this is it and I can't do anything about it. That's learned helplessness. That is something you want to stop because you always have an opportunity to make conscious choices that lead to conscious actions that will lead you out of a situation that you're in. Learned helplessness is a massive vulnerability that leads to a downward spiral of energetic spinouts. So that's what I'll say about that. So how do you recognize the truth frequency? That's an excellent question. The truth frequency is something that you can't think. It's not a thought frequency like we're taught because we are very much conditioned in our thinking. And so when you go into truth frequency, what you will feel it is in your heart space. It's not going to be something you think. It's going to be something you feel and know. And so you have to get out of the mind, the ego mind, to get into the truth frequency. So how do you know you're in or recognize the truth frequency? Is you will feel the difference. It will make you feel comfortable in that it feels right. But it may cause some mental conflict in that it's not the way you thought it would be, but it feels better. So the mental thought, so I'm trying to think, I had a session today where this was the exact issue. So I don't want to say too much, but I'm going to say this, that when you know the truth of who you are, and you align to that, beliefs that you have that go counterintuitive, meaning beliefs that go against what you know to be true, which is, I know Kiana would never, in her heart of hearts, intentionally do something to harm others. That's a truth frequency that those that are around me absolutely know. I think those who watch these videos will probably say that as well if they're aligned to the truth frequency. If they're in their mind, they might think, well, Kiana said this, and I don't agree with that. So that goes into the ego mind, where we go into agreement, disagreement, and judgment. That's all ego mind. But if they went into the heart and I asked them to just sit and feel, you could feel the truth frequency, and that creates a resonance. When you focus on the truth frequency, you will start to vibrate differently. And actually, that was a great question, because that one action could change all these 5 things that I brought up. If you were to do nothing else than align with the truth frequency within yourself, that means you do your best to honor your truth. And by the way, truths change as we get more information. But if you're following the truth of your heart, that's different, right? Because there's never going to be a time in your life where you are following your heart and you think, oh, I regretted that. No, you will always regret thoughts that you based your truths on, actions that you took based on your thoughts that went against what your heart knew was true for you. So when people are disconnected, they don't listen to their hearts. And that's a problem. But if you're listening to the truth frequency, well, then that's always going to be a feeling that you have within your heart. So that's a really excellent question. Let me think. Is there anything else about absorbing energy that would be helpful for you to know? It absolutely can be corrected. I think that's one of the most important things that you could take away from this. You can change and not absorb. Oh, I know what I wanted to say. When you create your energy field and you know your energy, so you have a physical body, a mental body, an emotional body, and spiritual body, and then a light body. When you have a conscious awareness of these bodies working in unison together, when you absorb energy, you will feel it immediately shift, that something in one of those bodies is off. Now, how do you know this? Because you know your own energy. Most people don't know their own energy. So when you are familiar with your energy bodies and you have a process of checking in with yourself, then you will be able to adjust accordingly. Having loving compassion for others who are in a particular situation. Let's just say you go to the airport and somebody's crazy, which there's a lot of instability in our world. Okay, so you don't even have to go to the airport to see insanity. You could go to the mall. I mean, people are unstable everywhere. So when you go into these places where there's instability, okay, you want to have love and compassion in your heart. You do not want to go into fear, like I don't want to absorb this energy. That fear is what attracts it. That's the conscious resonance, okay? So when these people are trying to protect themselves from not absorbing energy, you actually are creating a resonance for fear. Fear attracts stronger for weakness. So you want to stay out of fear and just go into loving compassion. Have compassion for these people who have some instability. We have a situation going on right now in our neighborhood where this woman, I've always known since the first time I came into contact with her, there is something not right. She's just not stable. And I don't spend time with her. Like there was an emergency for one of the kids on the street. I went over there to assist. The moment this woman stepped into my field, I exited. She is just completely unstable, and I can go into why I think she's unstable. Besides her behavior, it's in her energy field. I don't want to be around it. That's not me being in fear. That's me being in awareness. Now, I also use love and compassion in everything. So you can be aware and not in judgment at the same time. And exit. I exited because I wasn't needed anymore. Had I been needed, I would have stayed. But since she was a medical professional, she was more versed to giving aid. I was just giving energy support, which is very helpful in many ways, but in our society, it's not very well understood. So I'm okay with taking the exit when I need to. So my point is this woman has just put out something recently, and you could just see her instability in all of her comments on social media. And for me, it's just more data like, oh, okay, I was correct. She's off her rocker and she's having a meltdown on public view of all of our neighbors. So she was exhibiting all of these that I've listed to you. So does this require anything other than, okay, I'm going to have to put on my glasses. Mind. I don't understand mind. This is not mindset. So if you're interpreting anything in which I am sharing as mindset, it's not correct. This is not about mindset at all. This is actually the opposite. This is about being mentally flexible, not set at all. In fact, I'm not a fan of the term mindset because I think it trips people up too much. This is really about understanding that our mind needs mental discipline. And we have a lot of people that do not know how to discipline their mind. So the polarized thinking is a good example of people who have a poor discipline of their mind. Conscious resonance is really people not understanding that we are always sending out signals in our body and in our energy field to attract things into our life until we learn. That's the sole purpose, is to learn, grow, and evolve. And if we keep on attracting, like the narcissist energy is a perfect example. If we keep on attracting one narcissist after another, and we haven't learned our lesson about the narcissism, and we continue to engage in this trauma bonding that narcissists love to invoke in people, because there's not a person walking on this planet who has not had some kind of traumatic situation. But how we heal from that is by making conscious choices and choosing to do differently. People who continue to have relationships with narcissists, thinking that they're the exception to the rule and the abuse, they're in their ego mind identity. And so that would be an ego filter. I'm trying to give you examples so this makes sense. I hope I helped answer that question for you. So you want to have a clear sense of all of your energy. Every physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, and light body, they all have core resonance. You always want those core resonance, or spin rates as they're called, to be in alignment. So that would help you in aligning your energy and addressing the vulnerabilities. All absorption of energy is going to come from a spiritual body vulnerability. So that might be understood incorrectly if you are aligning spirituality and religion. It's not. It's about your connection within yourself. So I don't want to go on and on about this topic because I can. I just want to give enough information for you all to know that absorbing energy can be corrected. Absorbing energy is inorganic. Absorbing energy is a vulnerability in your energy field, and it can be corrected through mental discipline, through interconnection, through following the truth frequency. I hope that was helpful. I am Kiana Sage, and I guide people to peace. If you have any questions, feel free to send me a message or leave a comment. I appreciate you taking time to watch, and I hope you found this supportive and helpful for your own personal alignment. Cheers to being in sync. Bye.